This week, we're going to be talking depictions of mental illness in films. Now, some of the films that we're going to review this week don't really display mental illness or the effect of war, but they had a very deep and abiding effect on me. So that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to drop in the first one today is going to be the film Gallipoli, Peter Weir classic. Yeah, we're going to dive in. We're going to have a look at that. Because we're going to be doing this daily, you can send in you can send in a suggestion. What's a film you want me to have a look at and talk to you about? So, coming up right after this, we're going to be talking the film Gallipoli.
Welcome to Shattered the Podcast,
sharing the lived experience of mental illness on
A father,
a mother.
a family.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, and welcome to 11 for 1111. This is 11 war films that we're going to be reviewing over 11 days. Now, the first one that we're going to talk about is a film called Gallipoli. Now, this is an Australian classic from 1981. Now, I went and saw this at the movies with my school. So it's one of the first kind of war films that I ever really paid a whole lot of attention to. Because Dad, when I was growing up, we watched every war movie. Some of them we're going to talk about this week. But let's talk this film particularly. Now, if you don't know, Gallipoli basically tells the story of two mates, one of them being Mel Gibson, who join up and go and serve during the Gallipoli campaign in 1915. There's a whole lot of turmoil and lead up to it. One's a light horseman, one's not. They're both very fast runners. They become mates. They want to stay together. Bloody blah, blah, blah. But the main action takes place at a battle that was called the Neck. N-E-K, the Neck. Now, what happened here is the British High Command had decided to land a whole bunch of troops at a place called Suvla Bay, tens of thousands of troops. But the troops already on Gallipoli were going to make a series of what they called feints, attacks that are for no other reason than to distract the enemy. A number of attacks went through by a number of countries, not just Australia. New Zealanders, definitely. British, yes. I believe even the French had some activity to draw attention away from Suvla Bay. Now, that turned out to be exactly like every other campaign that was fought during this entire period on the Gallipoli Peninsula. It was an absolute debacle. Now, the attack on the Neck. This is probably one of the most powerful war films you will ever watch, because the attack going ahead at the Neck was instantly a failure. Not least because the barrage that was supposed to land up until the moment of the attack stopped a few minutes early. And this is an absolute true story. So the men are supposed to go over the top while the Turks are being bombed, and they're all ducking and hiding. Problem is, the bombardment stops, the Turks come out, and they are 100% ready for this attack to come. 7-8 minutes, something like that, they have to prepare. The first wave of this attack goes over the top and is immediately obliterated. Immediately. Second, third, fourth. The attack that was completely futile, served no purpose. Even after the first guys went over the top, all the officers, every man in the trench knew that this was stupidity. Now, in the film, Mel Gibson is made a runner. He takes messages between commanders. And his mate, Archie, is in the final wave that's going to go over the top. Now, what this film does beautifully is it shows the emotion of these men who know that they are about to die going over the top of a trench. Now, it's not they guess that they're going to die. They know they're going to die because all of their mates have gone over the top. They've been killed within yards. So I get choked up even thinking about this movie. So Mel Gibson's running backwards and forwards between commanders, trying to get the order rescinded. One of the great tragedies is that there was another officer in another trench who saw the attack at the neck and cancelled the attack on his own merit. And this was what the commanding officer at the neck was struggling with, was if he didn't send the men over, would he get into trouble? So you see the men pinning like baby boots on top of the trench, notes to their loved ones. They know that they're going to die. Mel Gibson has to run further and further each time to try and get confirmation that the attack should stop. Now, this part of the story is not really true, but when Archie, the blonde guy, goes over the top, for me as a kid watching this, an 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, I could not believe the futility of the assault. I could not believe the courage of the men. I didn't understand why the men would not just say, no, I am not going. My daughter asked why men in war continue fighting, particularly in World War One. And honestly, I don't know. As I said, my family has a deep history of serving. I am eternally grateful that none of my direct relatives are on the wall of remembrance. I have cousins and uncles and stuff like that up there. In the direct line from my dad to his dad to his dad to his dad, they all came home. I remember watching this film with my father. We're at home and the film finished and I just started bawling, like uncontrollably bawling in grief over what these men had done, were expected to do, were forced to do. Mel Gibson at the end, if you ever wonder if he ever was a good actor, watch this film. He's desperately trying to get back with the order to stop the attack. And of course it's not true, but he's desperately trying to get back, and then he hears the whistle and the cheer as the men go over the top, and he knows that his best mate just got blown away. And then of course his best mate, it's the final shot of the film, it's him running towards the enemy trenches and a bunch of machine gun bullets hit him in the chest. Gallipoli is a great film in that it shows the absolute futility of the Gallipoli campaign. And in and of itself, it talks about the futility of war. Now, this week, we're not going to glorify war. That is not what we're doing here. Many of those men that came back had to have been broken, had to have been. And yet, they came back and they were ordered not to talk about their experiences. Their officers, the men that they trust, said it would be better to save your families the pain of knowing what you went through. These men came home, they suffered in silence. The ones that had shell shock inevitably ended up in either institutions or dying destitute in hovels. There is nothing glamorous about war. There is something, though, about it. Men and women that will serve just because it's the right thing to do, that will put their lives at risk. It's not glorious, but it is a magnificent courage that me as a civilian will never know, will never have to go through. This week is about celebrating the men and women that came back, and it's about letting them know that suffering in silence is not necessary. What you did when you served your country in uniform overseas was extraordinary. May not have been glamorous, may have been dirty, may have been horrible, but we thank you for your service. I highly recommend watching the film Gallipoli. If you've not seen it before, make sure you have some tissues handy at the end. It is a powerful, powerful statement on why we should not glamorize war. What film are we going to review tomorrow? I don't know. Check the comments. We'll put an ad out later on. If you're enjoying this, you want to suggest a film, by all means, go ahead. Put it in the comments, in the links. We've got 11 days. I have chosen 5 films that I am definitely going to review just because they're more poignantly dealing with mental illness from the trauma of war. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Have a great week. Bye for now. Oh, and I hope you like the short hair. I don't. Long hair will be back soon. Thank you for listening to Shattered the podcast. I'd like to thank our producer, Meredith Brosnan, our executive producer, Torian Lau, and the band Adelaide for allowing us to use their song as our theme. Go to shatteredthepodcast.com for more information.